But we'll start with the Cincinnati Bengals. My big question for them is, will they take the final step? And that final step would be to become the best team in the NFL. And they're very close. They're knocking on the door. They've been there for a couple seasons. So the question is, how do they get there? And the biggest issue in Cincinnati for the past few years has been the offensive line. Remember 2021, all the issues Joe Burrow had in his second season. Despite that, they get to the Super Bowl, pressured 26 times, sacked 7, they lose to the Rams. They thought they addressed that coming into the 2022 season. They had 4 new starters on the line. And again, it was subpar. Injuries played a big role in that. 5 guys were on injured reserve by the end of the season. 3 of them were starters. But they still found a way to beat the Bills, and they still wound up back in the AFC Championship game. It's just a testament to how good Joe Burrow is. I mean, he gets the ball out faster than almost every quarterback in the league, and he does so extremely efficiently. But this year, they go and they make a big move. They sign Orlando Brown Jr. away from the Chiefs. He's going to be taking over at left tackle. And this should be the best offensive line now that Joe Burrow has ever had. Last year, he was sacked the 6th most times in the league, 29th rushing yards for the Bengals. It was just a disaster again. I think right now we're looking at the most talented offense the Bengals have had with Burrow.
Paul, my guy. These boys won't even win their own division. No, in all seriousness, I think when it comes to taking the big leap forward and winning a Super Bowl, well, I guess they got there, but it's the number 1 seed to me in the AFC. Because they've gone on the road before, I know that. But the 1 win at Kansas City, I mean, one can say they were lucky to win that game because nobody really comes back. What was it, 28-7 at the half?
21, maybe 7.
But like it should have been
down big.
The Chiefs were driving in the final seconds, could have been over. And then they wouldn't have played in that Super Bowl had they didn't come back and win that game, which they'd probably come back and win that game 1 out of every 9, 10 times they play in Arrowhead. Then they win in Buffalo, but then lose in Arrowhead. I think it's tough to try to bank on being road warriors against teams like Buffalo and the Chiefs and how good these AFC teams are now. To really take that step and to become a Super Bowl favorite in my eyes, you have to go into the AFC playoffs with home field advantage, AFC playoffs going through Cincinnati.
Yeah. And we've seen them, too, be successful at home. They've beaten the Chiefs a couple times big in Cincinnati.
Like if next year, right, like if it's Chiefs at Bengals or Bills at Bengals or Jets at Bengals, AFC chip,
Bengals are favored.
I'm very, very confident since he wins that game. Whether they go on the road, though, I'm picking against them.
Yeah. Ziggy, what do you think of that?
You know, I think there's a lot to like about this Bengals team, but I do think you have to wonder what they've done to get better. So I get that they added Orlando Brown Jr. And like in one sense, that's a big addition. But on the other hand, there's a reason he's been bouncing around teams and why the Chiefs didn't really want to keep him around. He just hasn't been an elite pass blocking tackle, right? He's good in the run game. He's fine in pass blocking. Though, of course, blocking for Patrick Mahomes makes you look a lot better based on how Mahomes is able to play. But so while I think he's a good addition, I mean, obviously that'll help. The thing I'm worried about with the Bengals is the defense, right? They lost some really important players on the defense leaving this year, right? They lost their pair of safeties. You know, it's not outside of that. It's not like the defense was especially impressive to begin with. They had some big time play moments, but it wasn't a defense that was consistently performing well. And the fact is in the AFC, I get that you've got to have a great offense, but a defense that can get that one or two stops, a defense that can intercept Patrick Mahomes when it counts, which the Bengals used to have, I'm not sure they've got it anymore. So this makes me a little bit worried about whether the team's going to be better this year than last year.
They definitely lost a couple. Like Jesse Bates was a huge loss. They also lost Von Bell. Eli Apple goes away, although, you know, Eli Apple has almost become a meme at this point.
Yeah.
Eli Apple.
He's pretty good.
He's solid. Yeah, he's a solid cornerback. They get back Awuzie, who their number 1 cornerback, who missed. I believe he left in week 8 last season with an ACL tear. So that's a big addition. I think they're fine as long as they have Lou Anarumo, their defensive coordinator, who's just one of the best coordinators in football. It's almost stunning that he doesn't have a head coaching job at this point. Think about what they did last year going into Buffalo, shutting down Josh Allen and the Bills team. We've seen this defense step up time and time again in the playoffs when it matters most under his leadership. And towards the end of the year, they tend to get better and better. I think they'll be okay. And then you have to remember the D-line too. They go and they get Miles Murphy out of Clemson. That guy a little raw, but if he can pull things together, I know, Ziggy, we talked about that Avery Davis game in the beginning. We saw Miles Murphy as a freshman. I mean, that dude is massive. he could be really, really good. They added to the secondary in the second and third round of the draft. So they addressed the weak spots on their roster. And I feel like that's all you can ask for as a Bengals fan. Weak offensive line, go get Orlando Brown. Loosen guys in the secondary, you draft it, you bring in a few free agents, and then they address the defensive line as well. So I think they should be okay. But again, it all comes down to Joe Burrow with this team.
Yeah, as long as this team ultimately has a healthy Joe Burrow and a healthy Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and Joe Mixon and you gotta remember
Chase missed most of last year as well.
Yeah, and a defense that's good enough, which they should be. Mm-hmm. They're coming into this season as a top 3 team in the AFC. And again, I think that if they have the number 1 seed, they're my pick to win the Super Bowl.
Wow. All right. There you go. It's crazy. The AFC North teams are all so good. I'm just going through each one here. So we had the Baltimore Ravens.
Oh, it's
next.
a tough division.
Yeah.
No, it is. It's a tough division for them.
We have Baltimore. I think they're the best in football. We talk about the AFC East a lot, but just from going through, I'm sorry, Zach. I'm sorry. I love the Dolphins. I love the Jets. The Bills are really good. I just think that there's 4 good teams in the AFC North, and the Pats. Wow, it is close because New England's not as bad as I said.
I don't think the Browns are that good. I give it to the AFC. I think the Pats are better than the Browns.
We'll talk about the
We'll
Browns.
get to the Browns. The Ravens are next.